to my new Guitar Nerdery video. This time I'm gonna talk about the tritone substitute. But wait, it sounds really nerdy, but it actually isn't. It's all about that you always can substitute a dominant 7 chord by another dominant 7 chord. To know about this can be of great value for players and composers alike. So get yourself something to drink and let's talk about this. So before I'm gonna walk you through all them details, let me give you the main message. You can substitute a dominant 7 chord by a dominant 7 chord that has its root on the tritone in distance from it. What is a tritone? A tritone is just 3 whole tone steps or 6 halftone steps. It splits an octave exactly in the middle. Let me show you on the guitar. The 12th fret is the octave of the open string and the 6th fret is exactly the half of that string. So this is the tritone, because it's 3 whole tone steps. Another visualization on the guitar would be if I, for example, play an A on the low E string here in the 5th fret. Then on the A string in the 6th fret we have the E flat note. This is a tritone on the guitar. You can just remember that fingering here. It's always a tritone, except when you play the G and the B string, then it's 1 fret further, because there we have an offset because of a different tuning. This would be a tritone on G and B string. And those of you who have watched my Guitar Nerdery episode number 116 about intervals on the fretboard will notice that a tritone is simply a diminished 5th or also an augmented 4th. And now let's talk about the dominant 7 chord. Why is it so special? Because it includes 2 guiding notes, at least 1, but in a major context, 2 guiding notes. What is a guiding note? A guiding note, the definition of this is it's a note that is a half step, a half tone in distance from a target note. So if my target note is the note C, the B underneath it is a guiding note. And also the D flat here leads to the C. Let me show you now how them guiding notes appear in the dominant 7 chord. I'm gonna play a C major cadence, a cliché cadence, which is played 100 million times. A 1-4-5-1 progression, it's also called. It's the chord progression C major, F major, G7, G dominant 7, and then back to C. And let me play it. And let me stop here. And I think every one of you thinks, please play C major, because you didn't resolve the G7. Why does it feel like that? Because of them guiding notes. Let's analyze the G7. This is the root G, and this here, the B, is the major 3rd of that G7 chord. And that B is the first guiding note that leads to the root chord, to the root of the root chord, C major. And then we have an additional guiding note, the minor 7th of that G7th chord. Right on top here, it's the F, it's the minor 7, and this wants to go to the E, which is the major 3rd of that root chord. If I play only them 2 guiding notes and resolve them, you still hear the chord progression. That's every information, all information you need. So, the main information we get here, the main character, the most important notes of a dominant 7 chord is its third, which wants to go to the root of the root chord, and the minor 7, which wants to go to the major third of the root chord. The minor 7 doesn't do anything in a minor context because it's still a whole tone in distance to the minor third of a root minor chord. But you still have the major third, which wants to go to the root of the, in this case, C minor. And the effect of that third and minor 7th of a dominant 7 chord is so great that you can get rid of its root and its 5th and it still works. Let me give you another example to show you how great the effect of the major third and the minor 7th of that dominant 7 chord is by playing a dominant blues in A. I first played with full chords, and then in the next round I'm gonna get rid of them roots and them 5th, and you will see you still hear the blues. In the first round I also add some extra notes to them chords to give it a more authentic sound. But then in the second round only thirds and 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4. I hope that you heard that in the second round, where I only played thirds and 7th, that it still worked, even without them roots. Somehow we make them roots up by ourselves, because that guiding function, that guiding effect of them thirds and 7th is so strong that it works for itself. It doesn't matter where you put or where you play a dominant 7 chord. A dominant 7 chord is always the 5th. It means in the Ionian system, on the 5th step, you have a dominant 7 chord, and that leads to the 1, to the 5th down. And every time when you play a dominant 7 chord, and it doesn't matter where you put it, in which place, it's always a 5th and wants to go a perfect 5th down. If it goes down there, that's up to the composer. It doesn't have to, but it wants to. And this is just because of them two guiding notes, the major third and the minor 7th. And all them other notes can be different, can be altered. You can put in there a perfect 5th, a diminished 5th, an augmented 5th, a minor 6, a major 6, not a major 7th, that is in contrast with the minor 7th, but also a minor 2nd or an augmented 2nd or a major 2nd. You can put it all in a dominant 7 chord. The dominant 7 chord is the chord type which has the greatest amount of variations. As long as you keep a major 3rd and a minor 7th and maybe also a root, everything is okay. And the rest of the notes can also add more tension, dissonance. The more dissonant a dominant 7 chord is, for example, this is a simple dominant 7 basic tetrad. If I raise the 5th, you get a dissonance, or the Jimi Hendrix chord, an augmented ninth in there, and also a minor 6 added. It's pretty dissonant, but it still wants to go 1/5 down to the root chord because of them two guiding notes, and the rest can add tension by dissonance. And the greater the dissonance, the greater it resolves then back. And that's what, for example, in jazz is really liked. So, that said, the 3rd and the 7th of a dominant 7 chord are the most important notes of that chord, and we can get rid of the rest. And by understanding that fact, we now come to the tritone substitute. Let me show you two interesting chords. I'm first gonna show you an A7 flat 5 chord. So this would be a regular A7, a dominant 7 chord. And this is the 5th. I put it 1 octave down and lower it 1/2 tone step. So. This is an A dominant 7 flat 5. And let's analyze the notes. It's an A, it's an E flat, this is a G, and this is a C sharp. This is the root, this is the diminished 5th, this is the minor 7th, and this is the major 3rd. And now I'm gonna play an equal chord with the root 1 tritone up. The tritone of A is E flat, and now I'm gonna play an E flat 7 flat 5. It's the same chord type, and now let's analyze the notes. I have an E flat, an A C sharp, and a G. These 4 notes are exactly the same notes as in that A7 flat 5 chord. And listen. It sounds exactly the same. An E flat dominant 7 chord with a diminished 5th is the inversion actually of an A dominant 7 chord with a diminished 5th. And now I'm gonna reduce both of them chords by 2 notes until only the major 3rd and the major 7th is left, which were the most important notes. So let's start. This is the A7 flat 5 chord. I get rid of the flat 5, it's not important. And I get rid of the root. The G is the minor 7th and the C sharp is the major 3rd. This is everything that A7 needs. And now I'm going to do the same with the E flat dominant 7 flat 5 chord. First get rid of that diminished 5th. And now also of the root. And this upper 3rd here, I'm gonna put an octave down. Ah. From the point of view of A, the G is the minor 7th and the C sharp is the major 3rd. From the point of view of E flat, I still have these 2 important notes. The formerly minor 7th, the note G here, is now the major 3rd. And the formerly C sharp here, the major third is now, from the point of view of E flat, the minor 7th. They just changed their positions. From the point of view of A, 7th and 3rd. From the point of view of E flat, 3rd and 7th. The A dominant 7 chord and the E flat dominant 7 chord can be replaced by each other. The minor 7th of A7 wants to go down, and the major 3rd wants to go up to the 3rd and to the root of the root chord. And the same do the 3rd and the 7th, only they changed their direction because we have the opposite point of view. Now the major 3rd of E flat 7 wants to go down and the minor 7th wants to go up, but actually it's the same. We're talking about the same two notes. And you hear it. Let's finally put this to the test, if it works. The turnaround in a jazz blues are, for example, a D7, G7, C7 and F7. So, by that theory, I can play the D7, but I can replace it by its substitute, one tritone down, by A flat 7. And then I can go to the G7 and the C7 I can replace by G flat 7. So instead of playing this, I can also play this. And the cool thing is, for arrangers, you can arrange your bass notes. You do not have to jump. If in the original you would play, and now you can play chromatically down. This is actually what you gain by doing this, by replacing a dominant 7 chord by its tritone substitute. You can arrange bass direction then. You can put it in a more clever way. I can also make it more extreme. I can play the D7 and then the substitute, go to the G, play its substitute, the D flat 7th, then go to the C, play the G flat 7, and then go to the F. And it still works because it's all the same. This is fantastic, and you have to realize that you do not have to play a dominant 7 flat 5 chord to replace it by its substitute, by its tritone substitute, to get the exact inversion of it, because all them other notes, except of the major 3rd and the 7th, the minor 7th, are not so important and can add tension by dissonance or not. As long as you keep them 3rds and then 7th, everything is okay. Sound-wise, you have also to realize when you play tritonal substitutes. Don't know why, but because it's mainly done in jazz music, your arrangement gets an immediate jazzy touch. You have to take care if you want that. One more thing, when you have looked carefully to them diagrams, when I played the A7 and the E flat 7, when it's an E flat 7, I called this note a D flat, because D flat, the note D, is from E flat E, the 7th. If I would call it still C sharp, what I have to do when the root is A, because A, B, C, C is the 3rd, then this would be the 6th letter, the 6th note. It's not clear enough. I have to give it the name of the 7th note from the point of view of E of E flat, and that would be D. So D flat and C sharp are the same, but when it's an E flat, this note is a D flat. When it's an A7, this is a C sharp. The G stays the same because G is the minor 7th of A, and E, F, G, E flat, F, G is the major third. I hope with the help of them diagrams it was understandable. It comes in really handy to know about this, at least when composing, and I really recommend try this. Check it out with your compositions or with whatever you play. When there is a dominant 7 chord, replace it by its tritone substitute. Maybe it doesn't sound good, it sounds too jazzy, but at least try it. And that's the way really to understand it, by doing it. This was it for today. I hope you found this interesting, and if you not already have, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It would really help this channel. I'm looking very forward to see you next time.